Hello, everybody. Welcome to Joe the Lawyer. Today, I'm going to break down the Washington Post article that is the subject of the Depp versus Amber Heard trial. Now, all of the media coverage, and rightfully so, because this is what has been on television, this is what everybody's been watching, and most of the attention on the case has focused on the testimony, what this person said and when, what this other person said and when, the facial expressions, the body expressions of Amber Heard. All of that is important. Really, every part of this trial is important. However, perhaps the most important part of this case, which has not gotten enough attention, is the Washington Post article itself. This Washington Post article is why we have the lawsuit, right? In 2018, Amber Heard came out, and I got the cover of the article right over here. Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. I want to go through this article. I want to read it with you. And as we read it, we will think about how it applies to the case and how it applies to the law. Because what Johnny Depp's lawyers need to do is they have to show that this article was false. This article was false. And that this article caused the decline of Johnny Depp's career. I'm going to focus this episode on whether or not the article is false. As far as how it affected his career, that I may do that in another channel. But, in my last video, I did a verdict prediction where I stated that I believed that Amber Heard was going to win the case, and I have received a ton of pushback in the comments. Let me tell you that I form my opinion not based on what I wish to be true, what I want to be true, or my own personal feelings about the case. I form my opinion as far as the verdict prediction, the fact that I believe Amber Heard's going to win, based on the facts and the law. The facts and the law, because the end of the day, that's what carries a case, right? And the facts and the law. And when I say facts, actually, let me dilute that a little bit. The evidence, it's what the evidence says and what the law says. And it's even in the comments right now. Everybody, see, I'm not here to just give people what they want, right? Everybody wants the channel, the videos where they can root for Johnny Depp. Look, I love Johnny Depp too. I think this whole thing was blown out of proportion. It's sad that it ever came to the public eye. I don't think Amber Heard was truthful in the majority of her testimony. I don't. It looks to me from everything that I've read and that I've seen that she is fabricating and coming up with falsehoods over and over and over again. But I don't believe that's going to carry the day here. So I'm sorry that I got to give you facts that, don't comply with what you want to see or hear. But this is my analysis of the case. And look, if I'm wrong about the case, you all can come back on my channel and dance on my grave of being wrong, right? If the jury comes back and finds that Johnny Depp wins this defamation case, I expect to be flooded with comments. I hope you guys do. I hope you guys hit me with comments. But I've been, I have a better track record than not in predicting the outcome of these types of trials, these trials that are publicized on TV. I'm a trial lawyer myself. And I think I have insight into how a jury makes decisions the way that they think. So let's break down the article. I want to show you step for step why I think Amber Heard's going to win this case. So also, if you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. My name is Joe Pometto, Joe the Lawyer. I'm a practicing attorney in Pittsburgh, PA. These are my thoughts and analysis of the case. Again, I like Johnny Depp. I think Amber Heard is making up a lot of what she said. I have a hard time saying that everything she said was a lie, mostly because she has additional evidence to back up some of the statements. I mean, did things go down exactly how she says? I doubt it, but I think she's done enough to win this case. And remember, she won the case in the UK as well. She won the case in the UK. So, all right. Opinion. Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence, faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Also, give me a like, give me a subscription. Please, please, even if you don't like my conclusion, respect my analysis and the way that I got there and come here to get an alternative point of view from the one that you have so that you can form a stronger opinion or perhaps even change your mind. Approach it with an open mind. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. All right, let's get into the article here. This is the December 18th, 2018 article. I don't know if Washington Post demonetized it just because it's all over the internet right now, or if I just have enough clicks, because a lot of times I only get a couple of clicks on a Washington Post article. All right, so let's read this article, and I'm going to read it in the context of are these statements defaming Johnny Depp? And then we're going to take a look at the law. Amber Heard, beginning, it says, Amber Heard is an actress and ambassador on women's rights at the American Civil Liberties Union. I was exposed to abuse at a very young age. I knew certain things early on without ever having to be told. I knew that men have the power physically, socially, and financially, and that a lot of institutions support that arrangement. I knew this long before I had the words to articulate it, and I bet you learned it young too. Nothing in there so far that references Johnny Depp. Like many women, I had been harassed and sexually assaulted by the time I was of college age. But I kept quiet. I did not expect filing complaints to bring justice, and I didn't see myself as a victim. Then, 2 years ago, I became a figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. Okay, this last sentence is the first sentence that I believe can rightfully be applied to Johnny Depp, because she references 2 years prior, and I don't know all the facts, frankly. I don't know all of them, but I believe that is when news stories first started to hit about the toxic relationship between Depp and Amber Heard. And so here she's referencing herself as a person representing domestic abuse. And it's certainly it's no leap of faith representing domestic abuse. It's no leap of faith to say that she's referring to Johnny Depp and her relationship with Johnny Depp. So what is she saying? A representative of domestic abuse. That leads the natural inclusion, the inference, with a logical inference, that there was domestic abuse in the relationship with Depp and Heard, in her relationship with Johnny Depp. The timeline lines up, and the jury will surely accept that part of the argument, that she's referencing Johnny Depp and this period of time. So let's move on. That's the first sentence. Let's talk about the rest of the article. All right. Friends and advisors told me I would never work again as an actress, that I would be blacklisted. A movie was attached to recast my role. I had just shot a 2-year campaign as the face of a global fashion brand, and the company dropped me. Questions arose as to whether I would be able to keep my role of Mara in the movies Justice League and Aquaman. There she's talking about the fallout from the situation becoming public. Nothing in that statement itself is directly referencing or could be seen as defamatory to Johnny Depp, in my legal opinion. I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Imagine a powerful man is a ship like the Titanic. That ship is a huge enterprise. When it strikes an iceberg, there are a lot of people on board desperate to patch up holes. Not because they believe in or even care about the ship, because their own fates depend on their enterprise. That's just a general statement about the power structure. How much you want to believe that. I mean, look, I don't agree with a lot of the general thrust of the article, but let's move on. In recent years, the Me Too movement has taught us how power like this works, not just in Hollywood, but in all kinds of institutions, workplaces, places of worship, or simply in particular communities. In every walk of life, women are confronting those men who are buoyed by social, economic, and cultural power, and these institutions are beginning to change. Again, nothing there directly referencing Johnny Depp, general statements about power structure. Okay, we are in a transformative political moment. The president of our country has been accused by more than a dozen women of sexual misconduct, including assault and harassment. Outrage over his statements and behavior has energized a female-led opposition. Me Too started a conversation about just how profoundly sexual violence affects women in every area of our lives. And last month, more women were elected to Congress than ever in our history, with a mandate to take women's issues seriously. Women's rage and determination to end sexual violence are turning into a political force. Again, nothing there that directly references Johnny Depp or her relationship with Johnny Depp. Okay, let's move to this. We have an opening now to bolster and build institutions protective of women. For starters, Congress can reauthorize and strengthen the Violence Against Women's Act. First passed in 1994, the act is one of the most effective pieces of legislation enacted to fight domestic violence and sexual assault. For those of you who came here for the same time sip, let's do it real quick. Yeah, I just had some Wendy's, and yeah, I eat fast food. I like fast food. Cheers. It creates support systems for people who report abuse and provides funding for rape crisis centers, legal assistance programs, and other critical services. It improves responses by law enforcement, and it prohibits discrimination against LGBTQ survivors. Funding for the act expired in September and has only been temporarily extended. Look, the majority of this article does not reference Johnny Depp. We should continue to fight sexual assault on college campuses while simultaneously insisting on fair processes for adjudicating complaints. Last month, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos proposed changes to Title IX rules governing the treatment of sexual harassment and assault in schools. While some changes would make the process for handling complaints more fair, others would weaken protections for sex assault survivors. For example, the new rules would require schools to investigate only the most extreme complaints and only when they are made to designated officials. Women on campuses already have trouble coming forward about sexual violence. Why would we allow institutions to scale back supports? We're getting Amber Heard's opinion on pending legislation and acts by the Education Secretary of the United States of America. All right, here are the final two paragraphs. I write this as a woman who had to change my phone number weekly because I was getting death threats. For months, I rarely left my apartment, and when I did, I was pursued by camera drones, and photographers on foot, on motorcycles and in cars. Tabloid outlets posted pictures of me, spun them into a negative light. I felt as though I was on trial in the court of public opinion, and my life and livelihood depended on myriad judgments far beyond my control. I want to ensure that women who come forward to talk about violence receive more support. We are electing representatives who know how deeply we care about these issues. We can work together to demand changes to laws and rules and social norms and to right the imbalances that have shaped our lives. And that right there is the end of the article. Give me 1 second here. I want to I had been harassed and sexually assaulted. I want to see here start if she really makes herself out to be a victim of sexual violence here. She does reference sexual violence multiple times. You can see here. And, you know, I thought these last two really, maybe this second to last paragraph. Let's go back to the second to last paragraph and let's go back to this one. This is the key statement in this that connects this to Johnny Depp. Now, the overall thrust of it refers to her being a victim. Here's the interesting thing, though. She talks about being abused early in life, and it looks to me, when she was of college age. And that part clearly does not reference Johnny Depp or the relationship with Johnny Depp. Then she says here, 2 years ago, I became a figure representing domestic abuse. And then she talks about sexual violence and violence against women generally. So even then, I don't think that there is much of a leap of faith to say that, and in the article here, I spoke up against sexual violence, the title, and faced our culture's wrath. So I think the most logical conclusions to draw from this article are she paints herself as a victim of domestic abuse with Johnny Depp, a victim of violence, and perhaps even a victim of sexual violence. She puts that in the title right there. Sexual violence with Johnny Depp and violence with Johnny Depp. And so what she's saying is within the last 2 years, she was a victim of domestic abuse, sexual violence, and violence with Johnny Depp. And I'll say, I may, this doesn't cause me to change my opinion here, but her framing it as sexual violence, and I think that's a fair conclusion to make here, might make it a little bit more difficult because most of the testimony and most of it that came through did not appear to be violence of a sexual nature. I think that, from the evidence that was presented in the testimony, it's very difficult to say that there was not some sort of domestic abuse, right? And we got basically three statements here: domestic abuse, sexual violence, and violence. When it comes to domestic abuse, if you look pretty closely at the trial and the testimony that was heard, I think even the most casual observer, but the people who watched the whole thing, it's very hard to conclude that there was not some sort of domestic abuse involved in this relationship. There was testimony from her sister that at times Mr. Depp had smacked Ms. Heard in the face. And there was testimony even from Mr. Depp himself as to how they would have very heated arguments in which they would place their hands on each other. He also referenced himself as the monster and had many, many text messages that were extremely aggressive and insulting to a high degree. And that evidence would allow someone, I believe, to conclude that Amber Heard was involved in domestic abuse with Johnny Depp. Now, it likely went both ways. And she didn't talk about that here in this article, but it doesn't matter because if there was any domestic abuse, her statement about domestic abuse is true. Now, let's just take a look at the law, defamation of character in Virginia, and I've highlighted it down here. These are the elements of the law that need to be proven by Mr. Depp. A factual assertion as opposed to an expression of opinion. And if you look at the article, those are factual assertions. Amber Heard is saying this happened to me. So it's going to be very easy for Depp's attorneys to reach that element. Number 2, that is false. That's the key here, but let's get back. 3, defamatory in nature. There's really no, it's really impossible to say that an article like that doesn't hurt somebody. And that's what the third element is talking about. Number 4, that it is about the plaintiff. Again, you have to draw an inference to say the article was about Johnny Depp, but that's very easy to do because she was in a relationship with him. So Depp has met element 1, element 3, element 4. Element 5, made to a third party. Well, if you publish something in a newspaper, third parties all over the world are going to see it. So that element is met. Number 6, in a setting or context that isn't privileged. That's interesting because things like filing a complaint in court or certain other court type documents or testimony or statements given in a legal setting can be privileged. They're allowed to make these statements and they can't be sued by it. But that's not the case here. So the privilege element is met. It's as a context that is not privileged. Number 7, with the requisite degree of fault. So can the article be attributed to Amber Heard? I believe Depp's lawyers have met that element. Number 8, causes actual or presumed damages. I think that statement right there is a lot more complicated. That part's a lot more complicated. We could do a whole episode podcast on that. But what we're focusing on is that is false. It is false because if the statements are true, then they have to find. Then everything, the whole case falls apart. The whole case falls apart, and that's the biggest strength of Amber Heard's case is she has to show that her statements were true. Now, here's the thing is she doesn't, because the statement was so general. This is the point I'm trying to make. Domestic abuse could cover such a huge range of activity. I don't think she's going to have a hard time stating that, that all of that back and forth that happened between her and Depp appeared to be domestic abuse. The tougher time for Amber is proving that her statements about sexual violence and violence in general with Johnny Depp are true. Now, what is sexual violence? What is sexual violence? That has to be defined and understood by the jury. And what is the jury going to decide is sexual violence? Because they're the ones who get to define that term and then get to draw the conclusion about if what they saw was sexual violence. Is violence within the context of a marriage automatically sexual violence? I doubt it, but that's an argument that can be made. Now, Amber Heard stated that there was a period when Mr. Depp abused her with, I believe, a wine bottle. That right there would clearly fall into, I think, the definition of sexual violence. And so if the jury believes that that story was true, then Amber Heard was certainly telling the truth in this article, and they would find against Johnny Depp. The violence part itself, given that the sister saw Mr. Depp allegedly whacking Amber, there's bruises that showed up on Amber Heard and other stuff. I think, the jury would have to draw that, and the jury's probably a bit confused, but the jury would have to say she made all of this up. It was all an elaborate lie there to say that there was no violence. I think the jury is going to have an easier time based on the facts saying, well, yeah, there was domestic abuse. And then the jury is going to say, was there violence? Yeah, probably. And then it's going to come down to sexual violence. Sexual violence. Was there sexual violence? And if Amber loses, it'll be on that basis, because her evidence about sexual violence itself was not nearly as strong as her evidence about being in an abusive relationship and being in a relationship with violence. But specifically, sexual violence is a lot tougher. Now, the jury's also going to have to conclude that this article was about sexual violence, and it specifically referenced sexual violence that occurred in their relationship. And that is not I think that's an inference that can be made. The problem is, how strong of an inference is it? How secure will the jury feel in saying that this article is about sexual violence that occurred with Johnny Depp? I mean, that's the sale that Depp's team needs to make. Now, the argument I made before and that I'm sticking with here is that in a situation where it starts to get very fuzzy and it's really difficult to tell who's telling the truth and who's not, the easiest thing to do for a jury, the easiest thing to do is to find against the party bringing the case. And the reason for that is the burden of proof, a preponderance of the evidence. So when the evidence is close or unclear, the jury is supposed to go against the party that carries the burden, because the party that's bringing the lawsuit has to show a bit more than the other side. And the reason these burdens of proof exist, it actually protects the rights of individuals and people in this country, especially in criminal law. Now, if this was a reasonable doubt case, which is what you would get in a criminal trial, I think that, it would be like, I definitely say that Amber Heard would win the case. No doubt, no doubt. I think she has a chance of losing here because the burden is only a preponderance of evidence, which is just more likely than not. They have to say it's more likely than not that Johnny Depp's theory of the case is true. However, I think that the facts, and there were a lot of witnesses in this case, a lot. I think the facts are so close, and that that all the jury really needs to do is think that there was one act of abuse and define that act of abuse as sexual in nature, which they may do just because it was in the context of a relationship. If the jury says there's one thing, they say, it appears here that this was an act of sexual abuse within the context of a relationship. If they say that, then Amber Heard will win. And because the Johnny Depp is carrying the burden in this case, that's my opinion. I believe that Amber Heard will win this case. And I think it has just a lot to do with the nature of the evidence in this case, and the fact that defamation cases are very difficult. You saw all the elements there. It's very difficult. Depp saying, proving that something in a context like this that is so complicated is false is hard. It's hard. It's different if, let's say, a defamation case could be very strong. Let's say a person came out and said, what if Amber came out and said, oh, well, there's certain facts that are just much more provable than other facts. What if Amber said, oh, well, Johnny Depp, killed my dog and buried it in the backyard and made him out to be an animal abuser. All right. And then, months later, it turns out that the dog is alive, right? Then the facts of a defamation case like that are much stronger than the facts in a case like this, where it's really going to come down to a matter of opinion as to what the jury feels the definitions of these statements are. And because of the preponderance of the evidence and the general nature of this article, the fact that her claims are not very specific, and therefore, more specific claims, it's much easier to prove that they're false. But general claims, it's more difficult to prove that they are false. So I think Amber Heard wins. beats Johnny Depp's defamation case. I think Depp also beats her defamation case. Or even if the jury gives out an award here as far as liability, I think the amount in damages will be very, very low. So I got a couple people here in the chat. And if anybody wants to ask me questions, go ahead and do so. I would be happy to address those here. If you guys want to chat with me, let me pull up my chat box here. Hello, everybody. If you want to chat, jump on in. I'd be happy to take questions or listen to statements. I know I don't have a ton of people here. I didn't announce this before I put it up, but I wanted to hop on. I felt it might be a little more fun to do this as a live video. So any questions, anything that you guys want to ask me on a legal basis or just about the case in general, go ahead. 11 down to 8. Doesn't look like anyone has any questions. All right. In that case, thank you. Guess who? Just another nut. Anthony, thanks for hopping in and joining me on this live chat. Thanks for your statements. And look, I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. Depp put on a heck of a case. So this isn't an easy call for me either. I just want to put that out there. But I made the call that Heard's going to win the trial. I'm sticking with it. All right, Joe the lawyer, Joe Pometto here. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Go ahead and do me a favor, help support this channel and the growth of this channel. Even if you disagree with me, please. Even if you disagree with me, go ahead. Oh well, hang on here. Couple more viewers. Anybody got questions? Anybody got questions? Okay, go ahead, watch it from the beginning and leave your questions.